Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this action-packed all-new John Haynes series adventure. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. One of my viewers wanted to know my thoughts on the possible ban of TikTok in the United States. Now, TikTok is a short video website that is owned by a Chinese company called ByteDance, and the United States government wound up passing legislation about a year ago saying that TikTok needed to be sold to an American owner in order to remain operational in the United States, or the website would be banned in the United States. Now, this ban of TikTok has a lot of people, especially young people from Gen Z and Generation Alpha, in a frenzy right now because these young people basically depend on TikTok for the videos that they make and getting the views for those videos when as related to their jobs as social media influencers. Now, many of these social media influencers say that if TikTok gets banned, they basically are going to wind up losing a place where they generate a lot of revenue, and this could lead to a lot of people who are having online businesses winding up completely unemployed. Now, if this possible TikTok ban goes in place, again, all these young people basically are going to lose a website that they've gone on and built up for years, and many are going to see their ability to make revenue with this website TikTok yanked out from under them like a rug. And that has, again, a lot of people online panicking and hoping that President Trump steps in and winds up looking to reverse this TikTok ban. However, things are not looking optimistic as related to reversing this TikTok ban because the U.S. Supreme Court has decided to not get involved with looking to reverse this legislation that looks to ban TikTok in the United States. Now, there might have been a possible argument to say that, again, TikTok should not be banned in the United States because this violates the U.S. First Amendment. However, there possibly is no jurisdiction because TikTok is a Chinese-owned website, and with it being a property of the People's Republic of China, it's not a U.S. asset, and with it not being a U.S. asset, people cannot go out here and say that this violates the First Amendment as related to free speech because TikTok is not owned by an American company. Now, when it comes to the TikTok website, this whole plan of banning the website possibly could be something that some would say is part of white supremacy, because when it comes to the institution of white supremacy, they really don't like it when foreign individuals own businesses that have control and influence over Americans. Now, Professor Black Truth in many of his videos has said that the media is mind control, and when it comes to social media is a form of mind control, and many people are basically addicted to this TikTok website, and many American legislatures and many American corporations don't like the idea of TikTok having so much influence over Americans, and this is one of the reasons that many in the government wanted to ban the TikTok website, because they believe that the influence of the Chinese government on American citizens would be detrimental to them, because according to some reports, the TikTok in China is very different than the TikTok in the US, and the TikTok in China is a bit more like YouTube here in America, whereas the TikTok website basically is a short form film website, and the TikTok in America, according to some people, has had a detrimental impact on the attention spans of most Americans. This is one of the reasons why many in American government want to ban the TikTok website. They want to ban the TikTok website because they feel that it is detrimental to the minds of Americans in shortening Americans' attention spans, and will possibly do damage to Americans as related to the way they socialize. And the way they socialize on social media is what they believe is leading to some people being antisocial. Moreover, many in government believe that the TikTok website is being used to go out here and influence Americans with misinformation. It's believed to be, again, getting Americans' personal information. This is what they believe by people opening up accounts on TikTok is doing. And because they believe that everything is detrimental to people as related to the TikTok website, this is why the government wants to ban the TikTok website. And it wants to ban the TikTok website in the U.S. because they feel that the Chinese would have too much influence and control over Americans and the way Americans think. And this is why they want to go out and get an American owner over TikTok. They want to get an American owner over the website so that there's somebody who's American who could be held accountable for this website. And this is where I see the impact of white supremacy on this whole TikTok ban, because the white supremacists basically want to control this website, and they believe that the only influence that can be over Americans is when white Americans control this website, and they don't want the influence of the Chinese on the American mind, and they don't want the influence of the Chinese to influence the way Americans think, because some in government believe that this could lead to, again, people being influenced to turn against the whole foundations of the U.S. Constitution. And this is some of the reasons why the government wanted to get this TikTok ban in place and basically get this website off American platforms of the internet, get this website off Americans' computers and their cell phones. And there's a lot of fighting as related to this website because a lot of Americans have become wedded to this website, especially young people from Gen Z, people who are Generation Alpha. Again, a lot of young people are, again, wedded to this website because of the symbiotic relationship that they have with their smartphones and the addiction they have to getting attention, because when it comes to them, they make content as related to either being social media influencers or just for fun. They are addicted to the hits of dopamine as related to making content and making these websites, as related to making these videos. And this is something that is what many in government consider to be a problem. But the whole thing that seems to be quite troubling is that they want to have an American owner influencing Americans. But if this website is a toxic one, then it just needs to go. And I basically believe it needs to go because of the detrimental impact it is having on American people and the attention spans of American people. Because I remember as related to the days of social media, when I started making content around 2012, 2013, and even before I started making content, Americans had much longer attention spans because they were being shown long-form videos anywhere from 10 to hours going on. And because they were watching long-form content, people basically could concentrate and have a long attention span. However, when TikTok came along and created short-form media, this basically wound up shortening people's attention spans, and many people these days have a hard time focusing and a hard time concentrating. And that is very detrimental to American people because not having the ability to have a long attention span means that you're not critically thinking, and without critical thinking, you have people acting on impulse, never thinking about the consequences of their actions or how their actions will impact people. This is a big problem we're having with this social media. And the social media, again, forms like TikTok and YouTube Shorts, this type of stuff. Yeah, people, again, want to think that it's a good thing, but I can see how it's detrimental to people's whole frame of thinking because of the impact it has on people's minds. Now, the TikTok website in and of itself, from what I've seen, it's just a lot of people going out here looking to go out here and just do dances or do all sorts of little short form content. And a lot of that short form content in and of itself is something that I really don't care about. So when it comes to this TikTok website being banned in the US, I don't really see that as a bad thing. No, I don't really see it as a bad thing because the TikTok website in and of itself basically is something that is just, again, filled with a lot of people just making inane content with no substance whatsoever. I mean, I just see a cajillion dance videos and a cajillion other meaningless videos that are just meant to get clicks, likes, and views. And it basically has, again, destroyed people's ability to make substantive content. I mean, I remember a day when I would be on places like YouTube, or I would go to people's websites and there would be substantive information on there. And what I see with TikTok is the information superhighway just turning into a place where we're not getting information, but just getting junk content. And this junk content really doesn't have any value whatsoever outside of clicks and views and basically a little bit of money in a small group of influencers' pockets. I mean, for me, it's no different than Instagram, where we've got all these Instagram models who basically add no value whatsoever outside of likes, clicks, and views. And those likes, clicks, and views, yes, these people make a little bit of money, but they don't really produce anything of substance. And that's the whole thing that's really sad about TikTok, is that this website really adds nothing of value whatsoever as related to things. And a lot of people are upset to hear that kind of truth about TikTok. But TikTok in and of itself it's not a site that I really, again, care about that much at all. I mean, I have a TikTok account, and I've had a TikTok account for about 2 years, and most of what I put on there is basically just promo ads for my books, and I don't really get that much traffic for those kinds of videos. No, people are so busy wanting to be distracted by flashing lights or dancing or whatever they put on there. I mean, these little snippets of media, but those snippets of media they are just flash and no substance whatsoever to me. So TikTok isn't really a place that I really go to. Now, I'm an older person, but the whole thing is I just don't really care about TikTok, and I don't see how it's going to impact most Americans if this website is gone. Sure, a lot of young people will wind up being upset because they can no longer be social media influencers on a popular website, but popular websites have been a dime a dozen ever since the year 2000. I remember when I first came to the internet in the year 2000 when I was working at AmeriCorps Vista at the Strive program, and I remember back then Yahoo being the #1 search engine. I remember Angel Fire being the place to make your own website, Angel Fire with Lycos. And I remember many of those, and AOL being the #1 internet service provider. And as time went on, again, AOL was considered to be the most dominant internet service provider in the year 2000. AOL was considered to be the place to go on the internet. However, as AOL grew and got so big it could buy Time Warner, eventually it became AOL Time Warner. But by about 2006, 2007, AOL basically was rendered obsolete when the broadband internet came along and cable companies got into the internet business. And as broadband internet became popular due to its faster speeds, AOL wound up becoming obsolete, and eventually Warner Brothers ousted Steve Case, the AOL CEO, and eventually put in, I believe his name is Dick Parsons, as the CEO, and eventually AOL's assets were separated from Time Warner. And eventually what happened with AOL is AOL fell into irrelevance and eventually was bought for pennies on the dollar by Verizon, another phone company. And as time went on, Yahoo was the #1 website from about 1996 to about 2000 as related to searches. Then eventually MSN started to become more popular, and eventually Google wound up beating them all. And in the span of 10 years, Yahoo in and of itself became irrelevant. to the point where it itself was sold several times and is now currently, again, another asset that Verizon bought for pennies on the dollar. And Angel Fire used to be the place to go and make your own free website, but eventually Angel Fire became obsolete as people found other websites on social media like MySpace and Blogger, and eventually Google's Blogger and MySpace started to become popular, and then eventually as MySpace was sold to News Corp in 2009, MySpace went out here and was a place for friends. It was a big social media hub, and it was a huge social media hub until about 2009, 2010, when News Corp decided to launch MySpace 2.0, and as MySpace 2.0 was launched, the entire site became difficult to use, and eventually MySpace became irrelevant as people went out here and migrated over to Facebook. And as they migrated over to Facebook, they then looked to be on Facebook and talking to each other. And the same thing is happening with YouTube. YouTube was popular in 2005 and then eventually was bought by Google. But even YouTube, again, will not last forever, and none of these websites will last forever. And from what I've seen, there's a pattern as related to these websites, a pattern where they basically wind up becoming obsolete in 5 to 10 years. Usually in 5 to 10 years, people start to lose interest, and that basically fits within the pattern of people as generations come and go as related to life in the world. What happens is that people, as they get older, they basically start to lose interest with these websites, and with people having short attention spans, I believe people would eventually wind up losing interest in TikTok, and eventually people would start losing interest in making these short form films as related to TikTok. People would start losing interest all around as related to TikTok, and eventually people would stop caring about TikTok, because what happens with a lot of these websites is the videos start to get repetitive, and as they start to get repetitive, people start getting bored with the content. And while some content creators look to escalate things and try to make more different types of content, eventually people stop caring about the content, because a lot of times with content creators who make a lot of stuff, sometimes they become one-trick ponies. And this is something I understand, because eventually people get tired of seeing the same content all the time. And this is basically what leads to a lot of these websites winding up dying over time. And eventually what would happen with TikTok is it would become completely forgotten sooner rather than later. Now, the viewer themselves say that they had issues with TikTok due to stalkers and other individuals, and I'm sorry that they had to go through that, and I'm sorry that they went through that. But the whole thing is with these websites, I just am completely indifferent to them. And if people are invested in them, I would advise them not to put all their eggs in one basket. No, never put all your eggs in one basket when it comes to the internet and the information superhighway, because the website you used to stop at may eventually go out of business abruptly. This is something I learned a long time ago when I used to be on the Wizard World message boards, and I was on Wizard World, and eventually, about 2002 or so, the website basically shut down, and as it shut down, I wound up not being able to go to that message board. Now, I went to another one in 2004 called the Superhero Hype Boards, and I was only there for about maybe 2 or 3 years, and eventually wound up moving over to another message board, the Fwoosh, and stayed over there for a while. And people migrate from website to website. It's just part of life. And the website that you were on today may be gone tomorrow. And sometimes it's gone due to fiscal issues with that webmaster. Sometimes it's due to server issues. Sometimes it's just due to the site just going belly up abruptly. And it's just a part of life on the internet. And sometimes people who make content, they get tired. I mean, I remember writing the Sean James Black freelance writer blog. I was writing 3 blogs a week in addition to writing the over 80 books that I've written. But as I got older, I just couldn't find the time as related to things because I was recording more videos a day for YouTube. And eventually I had to stop writing those blogs. Now I just post videos on my blog. And again, Blogger in and of itself became a forgotten website. It's owned by Google. People still post blogs, but nobody really runs the blogs like they did back from 2009 to about 2016. People basically moved on from blogs. Same thing with Tumblr. Tumblr was another website that was huge and had lots of people on it until eventually they decided to censor nudity and adult content. And as they wound up alienating those content makers, the entire site collapsed and in the end eventually was winding up getting bought by Verizon for pennies on the dollar. And the same fate would possibly meet with TikTok, where they get bought by Verizon for pennies on the dollar. That seems to be the paradigm for most of these websites. The paradigm for most of these websites is that they start out, they have a meteoric rise, they make lots of money, and then eventually people start to lose interest. And as they lose interest, what happens to these websites is that they fall into irrelevancy. And as they fall into irrelevancy, what happens is that Verizon winds up buying them for pennies on the dollar after they become irrelevant, and it becomes another asset in Verizon's catalog, like AOL is, like Yahoo is, or I think Yahoo was sold, I don't know if it is, and Tumblr in and of itself. And basically, these virtual assets really don't have much value. They may have sentimental value to people, but the whole thing is that websites come and go, and nothing on the internet is as forever as people think it is, because if the website goes out of business, the only place it's going to go possibly is the Internet Archive, which basically, again, warehouses a lot of old dead websites and old dead videos. And the whole thing with TikTok in and of itself is it's just gonna, if it does get banned, it's just going to go. And there are some that are saying that the president will come in and possibly save TikTok. But the whole thing is that TikTok in and of itself may not even last after that, because again, short form films, there are other places you can go to make short form films like YouTube Shorts, or you can go to another website that's in Japan. There are whole lots of different websites all across the world you can go to, and TikTok was just the more popular one. I mean, you can post these short form videos on Instagram, you can post them on Facebook, and a lot of people do diversify and post them on multiple websites, which is something I do all the time. I don't just have videos here on YouTube. I have them on Rumble. I have them on Odyssey. I used to have them on BitChute, but BitChute's just filled with white supremacists and racists, and I want nothing to do with that. And people, again, they're just going to go where they want to go. I mean, the same thing is happening with X right now. You have people after the election saying that they want to go to Blue Sky because they can't stand X now. And that's just a part of life. That's just a part of life as related to the internet. The internet is a place where people, again, they'll go to a popular site, and a site will be popular for a minute, and they'll be popular for a minute, then quickly forgotten. That's just the nature of the internet. That's just the nature of the whole business of the internet. And smart people just go out here and adapt and move to the next website. They move to the next website, and then they get on with their lives. I mean, if this is your business, you just move to the next website. That's what people did with MySpace. When MySpace imploded in 2010, they moved over to Facebook, and then they moved over from Facebook to YouTube and Instagram. And again, this is all part of expanding a business. You just go where the customers are, and that's why I'm completely indifferent to this whole situation with TikTok, because this is a Chinese-owned company having a beef with the American government. And again, as a black man, this is not putting anything tangible in my pocket. Again, I'm more focused on getting the word out about my books, and I can get that word out either through these videos that I do or the ads in front of them, or I can go out here and build word of mouth as related to things, because back in the mid-2000s, I was just going out here putting books on my blog and telling people they were free, and they would go pick them up. And again, if your content is good, you don't need to worry about TikTok. People will find your content because people all over the world found my blog. And as they found my blog, they started finding my books. And as I started doing YouTube videos, people started to find me. And again, it's not that hard to go out here and do things. And again, TikTok being gone is just a part of the life cycle of the internet. And if once TikTok goes, somebody will make up another website. That's just how the business is. And what has me wondering is that why didn't anyone come up with another website? Because TikTok, again, if it's gone, it's gone. But there will be another American business out here. I mean, people will just move over to YouTube Shorts or Instagram. That's just how things go. And that's how things are going to continue to go. As long as there's an information superhighway, there's always going to be somebody there to open up a website and look to make money with that website. Now, this was a video requested by a viewer, and if you want to request a video, you can drop a donation for a minimum of $15 to the PayPal or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up some of my books on the SJS Direct imprint, you can find those books on Amazon.com. And if you want to check out my first full comic, you can find that comic on Lulu.com by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes' Illuminati, the man who rules the world, takes on the head of the global elite in this all-new action-packed John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' Illuminati in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, 1987. Learn lessons about life and teenage love in the 1980s in this coming-of-age John Haynes story. Get your copy of John Haynes' 1987 in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.